it is associated with or it is connected with the limbic system as well. Yeah. So, and the nuclei of the hypothalamus, which is concentrated more in the medial zone, is further divided into 4 regions. So, right from before backward, the region are preoptic area. Okay, this preoptic extend both in the medial and lateral zone. Then supraoptic area, tuberal region, and mammillary region. These are the 4 regions of medial zone where all the nuclei of hypothalamus are concentrated. And within this medial zone further, the medialmost part of medial zone as it is present around the third ventricle, it is known as periventricular zone. Okay, are you people clear about this? Do I need to repeat? Are you people clear? Getting my point? Are you people there or not? Ma'am, repeat God. No. Repeat God. Okay. So hypothalamus को location तो clear boy की boy ना. It is present below the thalamus and extension याद करना पड़ेगा. Anteriorly lamina terminalis the posteriorly vertical line that passes just out of the mammillary body. Superiorly hypothalamic sulcus limiti and inferiorly it is continuous across the floor of third ventricle and from before backward it is related with this optic chiasma, tuberous synergium and mammillary body. While medial laterally it is extending from the lateral wall of third ventricle off to the internal capsule laterally. Okay, I hope you people are clear about this extension and location of the hypothalamus. Now, for descriptive purpose, this hypothalamus is divided into medial and lateral zone by the fibers known as columopharynx and mammillothalamic tract. So, this mammillothalamic tract and columopharynx, presence of these fibers divides the hypothalamus into medial region and lateral region. Okay, and medialmost part of this medial region as it is present just lateral to the third ventricle, this particular region is known as periventricular zone. Okay, further, as medial zone consists of numbers of nuclei concentrated within that, it is further divided into 4 regions. First one being preoptic region, supraoptic region, tuberal region, and mammillary region. But the lateral area is mainly, it consists of few nuclei, no, okay, but mainly is composed of nerve fibers known as medial forebrain bundle. Okay, this nerve fiber bundle which consists of bidirectional fibers which connect the forebrain with the hypothalamus and to the brainstem. Okay, it is related with the limbic system. Then now we'll go for the nuclei present within the medial region or within the hypothalamus. Okay, so these are the 4 regions of hypothalamus. First one being preoptic region, and the main nuclei present within this preoptic region is preoptic nucleus. Supraoptic region consists of many nuclei, among which it includes supraoptic nucleus, anterior nucleus, paraventricular nucleus, and suprachiasmatic nucleus. Wait a minute, it gives you. Sorry for disturbance. Is the slide soon displayed? Yes, ma'am. Okay. So within the supraoptic region, the nuclei present are supraoptic nucleus, anterior nucleus, paraventricular nucleus, and suprachiasmatic nucleus. Okay, and within tuberal region, the nuclei are arcuate, which is also known as interfundicular nucleus, ventromedial, dorsomedial, and lateral nucleus. Okay, actually, this lateral nucleus is present in the lateral region throughout the all 4 region, which will be more in clear in the coming diagram. Okay, and within mammillary region, the nuclei are posterior nucleus and mammillary nucleus, which is more clear from this diagram. See, this is the anterior aspect of this hypothalamus. This is thalamus. Okay, and here this is optic chiasma, tuberous synergium, and mammillary body at the floor of the third ventricle. Now the nuclei arranged within this medial and lateral zone to enlist are within preoptic region. The nuclei, first nuclei within the preoptic region is preoptic nucleus number 1 represented by this number 1. Okay, then in supraoptic region, this is the supraoptic region. as it is present above the optic chiasma. So supraoptic region and nuclei present here are anterior nucleus, here labeled number 2, paraventricular nucleus, number 3 here is the supraoptic nucleus, and here the small area below the supraoptic nucleus, which lies just above the optic chiasma, is the suprachiasmatic nucleus. Okay, the suprachiasmatic nucleus is missing here in this level. Okay, this is suprachiasmatic. Then next to that, the tuberal region, nuclei present within tuberal region is dorsomedial nucleus, ventromedial nucleus, and just above this tuber cinereum is the arcuate or infundibular nucleus. Okay, actually this is the infundibulum which hangs the pituitary or which forms the pituitary stalk. So this is the infundibular or arcuate nucleus. So nuclei present in the tuberal region. Finally, posterior region or mammillary region, the nuclei present are posterior nucleus and mammillary nucleus. Okay, and in the lateral zone, the nuclei present is lateral hypothalamic nucleus, mainly lateral hypothalamic nucleus, but this mammillary nuclei and the supra-optic nuclei also extend slightly to the lateral region. So this number 10 level here, lateral nucleus is extensive throughout all these 4 regions. Okay. So this is about the nuclei present within the hypothalamus. So once again, just to repeat, let's see the previous diagram. So this is optic chiasma. Okay. And in front of optic chiasma, this first area is the preoptic region, which consists of preoptic nucleus. Okay. Then second area is supraoptic region. Then supraoptic region consists of this paraventricular nuclei, anterior nuclei, supraoptic nuclei, and suprachiasmatic nuclei. Tuberal region consists of dorsomedial nuclei, ventromedial nuclei, and arcuate nuclei. Finally, the posterior region or mammillary region consists of posterior nuclei and mammillary nuclei, which is also known as tubular nuclei. And in the lateral zone, the most extensive nuclei is this whole area is representing the lateral nuclei. So are people clear about this nuclei of hypothalamus? Okay, I hope you people are clear now. And this is again to look at the anatomical organization of this hypothalamic nuclei. This is the third ventricle, just lateral to third ventricle. This is the hypothalamic area, and this fornix and even mammillothalamic classifies the hypothalamus into medial area and lateral area. Okay, medial area consists of numbers of nuclei which consists of preoptic, paraventricular, from frontal lobe of the cerebrum up to the hypothalamus, forming corticohypothalamic fibers, afferent fibers, hypocampo-hypothalamic fibers. So name itself is suggestive from the hippocampus to the hypothalamus via the fornix. Okay, through this fornix, hippocampus is connected with the hypothalamus. The next offerent is thalamo-hypothalamic fibers. So from the thalamic nuclei, offerents are sent to hypothalamus, okay, forming thalamo-hypothalamic fibers. These are some of the offerents coming to the hypothalamus. Offerent connections of hypothalamus. Similarly, efferent connections of hypothalamus are, so from hypothalamus, it sends numbers of fibers to different area of the brain. So firstly, to enlist from the hypothalamus, numbers of fibers descend down, forming the descending fibers to brainstem and spinal cord. Okay, so from hypothalamus, fibers descend down to the brainstem and spinal cord. Then mammilotegmental tract. Again, from the mammillary nuclei of hypothalamus up to the tegmentum of the midbrain. Mammillothalamic tract, again, from mammillary nuclei to the anterior nucleus of the thalamus. Hypothalamo-hypophyseal tract. Okay, this is now the important one. Hypothalamo-hypophyseal tract, which connect the hypothalamus with the pituitary gland, that is hypophysis cerebri. Okay, so this hypothalamo-hypophyseal tract or the connections of hypothalamus with pituitary gland are possible in two different pathways. Okay, hypothalamus is connected with pituitary gland in two different pathways. So first pathway being the paraventricular nuclei and supraoptic nuclei of hypothalamus is connected with the nuclei of posterior lobe of the pituitary gland. Do you remember different parts of the pituitary gland? As we have already completed endocrine gland, isn't it? So within endocrine gland, one of the main masters gland of masters endocrine gland we have studied about is pituitary gland. So anybody please tell me different parts of the pituitary gland. What are different parts of pituitary gland? What are different parts of pituitary gland?
Adenohypophysis
Adenohypophysis
and neurohypophysis.
Neurohypophysis. Okay, mainly the anterior and posterior part are there. Adenohypophysis anterior part, neurohypophysis posterior part. So this infundibular stalk and all that are there, even though. So within this, the supraoptic nucleus and paraventricular nucleus of hypothalamus sense is adjunct terminal to the nuclei present within the posterior part of the pituitary gland or to the posterior pituitary neurohypophysis. Okay, so this forms the hypothalamo-hypophyseal tract. But the other nuclei of the hypothalamus is connected with the anterior pituitary with the help of these portal blood vessels, long and short portal blood vessels forming hypothalamo-hypophyseal portal vessels. So what I mean to say is hypothalamus is connected with the posterior pituitary, that is neurohypophysis, through the hypothalamo-hypophyseal tract, while the same hypothalamus is connected with the adenohypophysis or anterior pituitary through the blood vessels, portal systems of blood vessels forming hypothalamo-hypophyseal portal vision. Okay, so to know even some detail about this hypothalamo-hypophyseal portal system and hypothalamo-hypophyseal tract. So here, this picture explaining about the hypothalamo-hypophyseal portal system. Now, this neurosecretory cells present within all the nuclei of this medial zone of hypothalamus, which releasing hormone and release inhibiting hormone. Okay, so this releasing hormone and release inhibiting hormone, which are in turn to control all the endocrine organs, are released from this hypothalamic nuclei. Okay, so this releasing hormone and release inhibiting hormone are packed into granules within the hypothalamic nuclei. Then it is carried through these axons into the axon terminal where it is exocytosed. Okay, so this exocytosed hormone recycle or granules will be received by the portal vessels, which is present within the median eminence and infundibulum of the pituitary gland. Okay, so this portal system, as it is, these hormones are released into here. The fenestrated capillary will receive the granules filled with packed with hormones, and it is released into the another set of capillaries which is present at around the secretory cells of anterior pituitary. Okay, so this way, two sets of capillary, the hormone or blood is passing through the two sets of capillary, forming the portal system, hypothalamo-hypophyseal portal system. So finally, this hormone, releasing hormone and release inhibiting hormone, which is perceived by the secretory cells of the pituitary, anterior pituitary, will release the hormone or inhibit the hormone according to the requirement of the body. Okay, so this way of connection or this way of portal system, blood vessels connecting fenestrated capillaries or connections of the blood vessels, which make connection between hypothalamus and anterior pituitary, is known as hypothalamo-hypophyseal portal system. I think this thing we already have studied in endocrinology also, isn't it? So I hope you people are clear about this. The next connection of hypothalamus with the posterior pituitary is through the hypothalamo-hypophyseal tract. Now, mainly this supraoptic and paraventricular nuclei. This supraoptic is mainly for secretion of vasopressin, and paraventricular is mainly for secretion of oxytocin hormone. So this vasopressin and oxytocin hormone released by supraoptic and paraventricular nuclei will be packed into granules similarly. Then it is transferred through the axon and into the axon terminal, where this hearing body will release this hormone. Okay, and it will be received by the blood vessels within the posterior pituitary. It will be stored and released according to the requirement of the body. So this neuron connection of hypothalamus with posterior pituitary form the hypothalamus hypophyseal tract, while the blood vessels connection of hypothalamus with the anterior pituitary form the hypothalamus hypophyseal portal system. Okay, are you people clear about this? Are you people clear about this? So actually, the hormone released from posterior pituitary, which is vasopressin and oxytocin, is just stored in the posterior pituitary. It is synthesized in hypothalamus and it is stored within the posterior pituitary and released according to the requirement of the body. Okay, so this is about the connections of hypothalamus with the pituitary gland, and this hypothalamus in this way control all the endocrine organ in the body through the help of pituitary gland. And we'll go for the function of the hypothalamus. So hypothalamus has numerous functions, as this hypothalamus actually is considered as head ganglion of autonomic nervous system. So this autonomic nervous system, the higher control of autonomic nervous system is done by this hypothalamus. Okay, so autonomic nervous system is controlled all by hypothalamus, and it is supposed that anterior part of the hypothalamus controls the parasympathetic response. All the parasympathetic response is controlled by anterior part of the hypothalamus, while all the sympathetic response is controlled by this posterior part of the hypothalamus. Okay, anterior part of the hypothalamus control the parasympathetic responses, while posterior part of the hypothalamus control the sympathetic responses. The next is endocrine control, as we have seen here how hypothalamus is controlling the releasing and secretion and inhibition of these pituitary hormones. Okay, so endocrine control, both positive and negative feedback mechanisms occurs so that it control all other necessary endocrine glands. Temperature regulation. So set point of our body is usually 19.6 degree Fahrenheit or 37 degree centigrade. Okay, so hypothalamus has got temperature regulatory function where there is a set point fixed. Okay, so if this set point, if the body temperature increase in comparison to the set point, then it will go for the heat loss mechanism in the body, within the body. And if the set point is decreased or the body temperature decrease in comparison to the set point, it will go for the heat gain mechanism. And similarly, like in ANS, autonomic control, anterior portion of the hypothalamus is responsible for heat loss mechanism, which is required when the body temperature increases, so that to maintain the thermoregulation, one has to go for the heat loss mechanism. Okay, the posterior portion of the hypothalamus is responsible for heat gain mechanism. Okay, are you people clear about this? The next function is regulation of food and water intake. So this hypothalamus has got separate hunger center, thirst center. Okay, so this hunger center and thirst center is supposed to be present at the lateral region of the hypothalamus, while satiety center or satisfaction center is present at the medial region of the hypothalamus. So if in some individual the lateral region is stimulated, lateral region of hypothalamus is stimulated, the person feels excessive thirst and excessive hunger. And if medial region of the hypothalamus is stimulated, the person will feel the like as the satiety center is stimulated, the person will be he or she will be full without having anything. Okay, like even they are not having anything or they are not taking food, any food, they will be having the feeling of this fullness. Okay, so this type of centers, this satiety center, hunger and thirst center are also present within this medial and lateral region of the hypothalamus. Emotions and behavior, all these emotions, as hypothalamus is connected with the limbic system. Okay, so all these emotions and behaviors are also controlled by hypothalamus. Control of this circadian rhythm, which is also known as biological clock. This circadian rhythm, which is the internal clock of the body that regulate within this 24 hours cycle. Okay, all the biological process will occur within this 24 hours cycle. uh, in animals, such type of cycle is known as circadian rhythm, and this circadian rhythm is maintained by this hypothalamus. Particularly, the suprachiasmatic nucleus of hypothalamus is responsible for maintaining this circadian rhythm. Okay. So as the hypothalamus has so many of functions, so if it has some disability or some lesion occurs within the hypothalamus, we can just imagine what will be its signs and symptoms. So how much extensive will be its signs and symptoms. Okay. So obesity and wasting are there. If the hunger center is stimulated, or in the lateral region of the hypothalamus is lesion, it may cause that the person will feel hungry and thirsty. So excessive intake of food may result in obesity. And just opposite happen if the medial region is lesion. Sexual disorder like if hypothalamus has some lesion, it may result in uh, impotence or excessive sexual desires. Okay, and even irrespective of this species also, if there is disorder within the hypothalamus, the sexual disorder will be so extensive that the person will not even differentiate between the species. Okay. Then hypothermia, because it is also regulating the temperature, so it may result in hypothermia of the body. Diabetes insipidus, where mainly the supraoptic nucleus is involved. If supraoptic nucleus is involved, it may result in neurogenic diabetes insipidus. Disturbances of sleep, if obviously because there will be alteration in circadian rhythm, biological clock will be disturbed, so it results in sleep disturbances and many other disturbances. And emotional disorder are there. Okay, so these are just few signs and syndrome to list within this hypothalamic disorder. Then we're done with this hypothalamus. So the remaining is metathalamus and epithalamus. So any part do I need to repeat regarding this hypothalamus? So mainly within this hypothalamus, you should be clear about the location, its extension, which I have repeated many times. Okay. Then you should be clear about the hypothalamic nuclei. What are these hypothalamic nuclei? In which region it is present? Okay. Then about few afferent and efferent fibers of the hypothalamus, and its function is obviously important for you people. So are you people clear about this hypothalamus? Shall we go for the remaining portion? Are you people there or not?
Okay, ma'am.
ओके किन बुझेन कुनै पार्ट नबुझेको छ
छैन म्याम
छैन एकजना मात्र बोलिरहेछ अरू सबै सुतिसक्यो के हो सुनिरहेछौ नि आई होप all of you are listening. Okay. So then we'll go for the metathalamus. So within this metathalamus, this is also the another part of the encephalon. Okay, metathalamus is composed of lateral geniculate body and medial geniculate body. Now tell me, this lateral and medial geniculate body, you must have come across this terminology. In which class or in which lecture you have studied about this lateral and medial geniculate body? In which topic, in which lecture you have encountered this lateral medial geniculate body, these terminologies? Yeah, sir.
Midbrain.
Sorry?
Midbrain.
Midbrain मा गर्यो कि लास्ट लेक्चर के थियो थ्यालामसमा गरेनौ थ्यालामसमा आएन यो टर्मिनोलोजी आयो कहाँ कहाँ प्रेजेन्ट हुन्छ यो
थ्यालामसको lateral part.
Lateral part. Which end of thalamus? How many ends are there in thalamus?
Pulvinar end.
Okay, just below the pulvinar end. Pulvinar end anterior end हो कि posterior end हो?
Posterior end.
Posterior end, obviously. Okay, so just below the pulvinar end or posterior end of thalamus, these two oval mass of gray matter are present, known as lateral and medial geniculate body. And these lateral medial geniculate bodies are present lateral to अब यो के हो त कसले भन्छ? What is this structure? Sorry, this is
inferior colliculus.
यो inferior हो अनि यो
माथिको superior colliculus.
This one is superior colliculus and this is inferior colliculus. Okay, so this superior inferior colliculus, which is present at the posterior aspect of midbrain. So lateral to this superior inferior colliculus, these two oval mass of gray matter are present, which is known as lateral and medial geniculate body. laterally placed one, lateral geniculate body, and medial to that is the medial geniculate body, which is present just below the pulvinar end of the thalamus. Okay. So what is the function of this lateral and medial geniculate body then? Lateral geniculate body is associated with
Visual system.
visual pathway. Medial geniculate body is associated with
Auditory pathway.
auditory pathway. Very good. Okay, so lateral L for light, remember like that. Lateral is for light reflex or visual pathway, and medial geniculate body is for the auditory pathway. So just few details about this auditory pathway, medial geniculate body. Now this cochlear nerve, which is associated with hearing. Okay, cochlear nerve, which arises from the cochlear nuclei, passes through this firstly to the inferior colliculus, and from this inferior colliculus, the fibers passes to the medial geniculate body, and from medial geniculate body to the auditory tract into the auditory area within the temporal cortex. Okay, so this is how this cochlear nerve, cochlear nuclei, or the auditory pathway are connected with inferior colliculi and to the medial geniculate body, from there into the auditory cortex that is present in the temporal cortex. Okay. So remember, just to recall, medial geniculate body is associated with the auditory pathway. About this pathway, we will be studying when we study about the spatial senses in detail. Okay, for now, remember, medial geniculate body is associated with the auditory pathway, while lateral geniculate body is associated with visual pathway. Now, how this visual pathway associate this superior brachium, superior brachium and superior colliculi and the lateral geniculate body. Now from the eye, from the retina, this optic nerve crossing here occurs, optic tract, and then optic radiation into the primary visual cortex. Okay, so within this lateral geniculate body and the superior colliculi are connected by nerve fibers. So this connection is required for this sudden visual stimuli, like let's say for the visual reflex. Okay, suddenly when someone calls us, or when some visual stimuli occurs there, or any other stimuli occurs, immediately we move our head along with our eye. Okay, so such connections, or the sudden stimuli, or the sudden visual reflex is carried by this is made possible by this connection of the lateral geniculate body and then superior colliculi. Okay, so this is how the superior colliculi and then lateral geniculate body is associated with the visual pathway. So this is about the lateral and medial geniculate body. The next part we need to know about is epithalamus. Epithalamus is also the part of diencephalon which is present at the posterior aspect of the dorsal diencephalon. Okay, actually where I'm circling here, this part is the epithalamus, which is present or which is located at the dorsal aspect of caudal part of the diencephalon. Okay, and within this epithalamus, or epithalamus is composed of pineal body, habenular nuclei, stria medullaris, posterior commissures, which is also known as epithalamic commissures. Okay, so mainly this habenular nuclei and its interconnecting fibers compose or constitute the epithalamus. And beside this, pineal body is also present, or it is also the part of epithalamus itself. Okay, so here this is the pineal body. Now it is more clear from this diagram. Again, this is sagittal section through the cerebrum, cerebellum, and brainstem. Okay, now just to know different parts of the brain, what is this I'm pointing here? What is this structure? What is this structure?
Corpus callosum.
Corpus callosum. What is this next below that corpus callosum?
Septum pellucidum.
Septum pellucidum. Okay, and what about this?
Fornix.
Fornix. Below the fornix here, this is
Interthalamic adhesion.
And this is interthalamic region, and this is thalamus. Okay, and here from interventricular foramen of Monroe running to the aqueduct of Silvers, this is the hypothalamic sulcus. So below the hypothalamic sulcus, this area is, what is this area now?
Hypothalamus.
This is hypothalamus. So can someone tell me about the extension of the hypothalamus, which is limited anteriorly by
Lamina terminalis.
Lamina terminalis. Okay, so don't get confused. Lamina terminalis actually is a thin sheet of gray matter which extends from the optic chiasma above to the anterior commissure, or let's say rostrum of the corpus callosum. Okay, this much is the lamina terminalis, which limit the hypothalamus anteriorly, while posteriorly hypothalamus is limited by an imaginary vertical line which passes just caudal to this mammillary body. This is mammillary body. Okay, just caudal to mammillary body, vertical line limit the hypothalamus posteriorly. Superiorly, it is limited by this hypothalamic sulcus. Inferiorly, the hypothalamus is continuous across the floor of the third ventricle, and from before backward, it is related with this optic chiasma, infundibulum, infundibular stalk connecting the pituitary gland or holding the pituitary gland. So this is infundibulum, and then mammillary body. Okay, while medial laterally it is extending from the lateral wall of the third ventricle up to the internal capsule. Okay, just to repeat about the location of the hypothalamus, and then you should study about the nuclei present within the hypothalamus. Then, as we are talking about the epithalamus now, epithalamus composed or constitute this spinal body. Okay, then this habenular nuclei along with these habenular commissures, posterior commissures like anterior commissures is present here. This is the posterior commissures. Okay, plus stria medullaris. Stria medullaris, actually it is also the connecting fibers which connect the septal nuclei with the habenular nuclei. Okay, stramellaris. So habenular commissures, posterior commissures. Habenular commissures is shown here. This green mark area is the habenular commissures, which consists of habenular nuclei and connection between habenular nuclei of two sides. Okay, then posterior commissures here. Posterior commissures is present at the inferior stalk of the pineal gland. Actually, these habenular commissures also form the superior stalk of the pineal gland, and posterior commissures form the inferior stalk of the pineal gland. Okay, and these posterior commissures connect the area responsible for the language area of two cerebral hemisphere is connected by this posterior commissure. So commissural fibers and projection fibers, you people are already clear about it. Okay, so this is the posterior commissures, and this forms the habenular commissures with habenular nuclei, pineal gland. So these are the structure which forms the epithalamus, and the main function of epithalamus or habenular nuclei main function is still poorly understood. Okay, but it is supposed to control all these dopaminergic and serotonergic neurotransmitters and the fibers. It is supposed to control that. Plus, the pineal gland, which secretes the melatonin, is supposed to control this sleep wakefulness cycle and all. Okay, so this is about the epithalamus. And this is all about the hypothalamus, epithalamus, and megathalamus. So, do I need to repeat any portion of it? Are you people clear about? It's down attendance. So, are you people clear about this? So, you go go through your textbook, okay, and try to recall about the nuclei, different nuclei present within the hypothalamus, its anatomy.